But do you really believe that when people talk about the threat to democracy that Trump poses, do you really think that that is an equal evil to Biden?
I mean, listen, I can make the argument that President Biden is a much worse threat to democracy. And the reason for that is President Biden is the first candidate in history, the first president in history that has used the federal agencies to censor political speech, so to censor his opponent. I can say that because I just won a case in the Federal Court of Appeals and now before the Supreme Court.
Hey, welcome back. It's your man Wise, and today I have a great video to share with you guys. CNN brought on RFK Jr. and this dude, whoa, he says the unthinkable on CNN. I would have thought that I would hear this somewhere else, not on CNN. RFK Jr. says Biden is the bigger threat to the United States of America than Donald Trump. He said it, and he said it with his chest. Before we get into the video, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Drop me a comment down below. I appreciate all the love and support. And before we get going, we must have a word from our sponsor, Childlight Candles. Please support Childlight Candles today. Link in the description box below. These candles are amazing. Support a veteran-owned, family-owned, American-based organization. These are 16-ounce candles with a plethora of fragrances to choose from. My favorite candles right now are the Black Cherry Merlot and the Frankincense and Myrrh. Buy 5 candles, keep 2, give 3 away as gifts. You have no idea what you're doing for this family and small business. Please support Childlight Candles today. Fragrances lit for the kingdom.
States, if you have to be on the ballot in enough states to be able to win the Electoral College. You're not right now.
Yeah, and I will be.
You believe you will be? I mean, because I know.
I know I will be. 100%. I'm going to be on the ballot in every state in the District of Columbia. Well, Eve, yes, and I've said this from the beginning, and we're already well on our way there. I think within 8 weeks, we're going to probably be on another 19 states. So we were not allowed to get on the ballot before in most states because we didn't have a vice presidential candidate. You have to name a vice presidential candidate to get on the ballot in about 26 states. So now we have that. And we have about 200,000 volunteers. It's going to be easy for us to get on the ballot in every state.
So I know part of the reason that
in North Carolina, we had to get 13,000 signatures. We got 23,000. In New Hampshire, they said it would take us months to get our signatures. We got them in 1 day. In Utah, we got them in 1 week during a blizzard. So, we have a very, very good volunteer army out there.
So when you talk about that you had to have a VP candidate to get on in some of these states, right? So that's part of the reason I know you made this decision when you did. The person you've chosen is Nicole Shanahan. She's a lawyer. She doesn't have government experience. Obviously not a household name. And a lot of people have questioned.
Why they got to bring up she doesn't have government experience? Like we need more people with government experience. Not that I would support RFK Jr. nor Mrs. Shanahan, but why is that a requirement? We got a bunch of fools in Congress right now, a lot of fools in Congress right now. We have 2 fools in the White House right now, but they need government experience to do this job? Heck, man, I don't think you need a high school diploma to do the job that they're doing right now.
Why you picked her. Liz Smith of the DNC just today says she was picked for one reason and one reason only, the money. And obviously, she speaks for the DNC, but Mick Mulvaney, who was OMB director under President Trump, said this.
There's one thing we need to know about her. It's the reason that Kennedy picked her for vice president. She's fabulously wealthy. This is the woman who single-handedly bankrolled his ad during the Super Bowl that cost $4 million. That's why he put her on the ticket, along with the fact that I think everybody else probably turned him down.
Would you have picked her if she didn't have the money?
Yeah, did you see her speech?
Part of it. But I'm just asking, did you pick?
I don't think anybody who watched that speech would ever say that. She was impressive. She's eloquent. She's authentic. Her life is it's the template for the American dream. She started out as a minority kid in Oakland, extraordinary poverty, on food stamps, on welfare. She grew up and attended Stanford. Well, she became a Stanford Fellow. She became an entrepreneur. She's a very, very uber successful businesswoman. She has encyclopedic knowledge of AI. She has an encyclopedic knowledge of chronic disease epidemic and how to stop it. She is young and she's a mother. And I wanted, in my candidate, I want three things. One, somebody who was not an insider, because it was the insiders who created this problem. They created the debt crisis. They created the addiction to war. They created the chronic disease epidemic. They created the polarization. I wanted somebody outside who's thinking outside of the box. Our campaign is for young people. We're the only campaign that is looking at this assault on our children, on what is happening to this young generation. So I wanted somebody who is young, who is not, an 80-year-old man. I wanted somebody who's a mother. I wanted somebody who's going to champion their issues. And I don't think anybody who looked at Nicole Shanahan's speech, which I urge people to do, would ever say that the reason that I picked her was for her money. By the way, we don't need her money to get on the ballot in every state. We already have the biggest field operation of any campaign. We are going to have no problem getting on the ballot in every state. We did not need Nicole Shanahan's money, and we're getting plenty of money. We're raising more money. Our campaign is. And President Trump or President Biden.
Well, so when you talk about, though, that you say that...
Is it me? And I don't mean to be disrespectful because I don't want to disrespect RFK Jr., but his voice, I struggle understanding what he's saying, and I have to listen intently to really get the full understanding of what he's saying and what he's trying to articulate. You guys down in the comment section, let me know, would that be a problem for you? I know a lot of you guys are Trump fans. I am a Trump supporter as well. But if you were to look at another candidate, would his voice, would that be of concern to you? It's obvious he's he's a pretty smart guy, but would his voice, be a challenge? Or is his voice a challenge?
You're pulling equally from both. Now, we'll see what happens. But in the polling that we have, but hold on one second. I'm going to just take Georgia, because we all know Georgia margin of victory last time was 11,779 votes. So the latest polling from Georgia, you get 12% of the Democratic vote. You pull 5% of the Republican vote. Again, these are polls. This is where we are right now. But that's what they show. So when you look at it that way, how can you say that your campaign is not taking more from Biden?
What I would say.
Why would that be of concern to him, of where he's pulling points from or pulling votes from? Why does he care? I know CNN is a Democrat propaganda machine. I get it. And they solely are focused on the Democrat Party and helping people from that party win. I get it. But why would you ask him that question when I believe he's running as an independent and he's running against both Trump and Joe Biden? I don't think he cares where his votes come from, whether he's pulling some from the Trump campaign or he's pulling some from the Biden campaign. And why are you so upset and defensive behind it that he thinks that maybe he's pulling more from the Trump campaign? What does it matter?
Say to you, and I'm not, this isn't something I want to argue with you about. It's just my observation is, and I don't care one way or the other, what my observation is of the Quinnipiac poll, the Harvard-Harris poll, the Gallup poll, the New York Times, Siena poll, all the leading national polls at this point in history as of today show me polling like maybe 2 more points from President Trump than I am from President Biden. So mainly what they're showing, and the Politico did a big article on this, is my supporters are people who aren't going to vote at all, largely, and my donors are people who had given up on the American political process and are re-engaging because they feel that they don't want to choose between the lesser of two evils. They want to choose a candidate who is going to inspire them, who's going to give them hope, who has a vision for the future, and who has the vigor and energy to actually change this country. And that, I want to engage those people in the political process. The Democrats and Republicans, I'm going to take from the margins, and I can't tell you, even today, it's irrelevant, Aaron, because it's really, who am I going to take from in November?
So you, in 2000, Ralph Nader obviously was running, and you did an interview with NBC News just a few months before the election. You said this.
There's a political reality here, which is that his candidacy could draw enough votes in certain key states from Al Gore to give the entire election to George W. Bush.
And then you wrote an op-ed in the New York Times. You wrote, Ralph Nader is my friend and hero, but Mr. Nader's candidacy could siphon votes from Al Gore. Mr. Nader dismisses his spoiler role by arguing there is little distinction between the major party candidates and that Mr. Gore is compromised on too many issues. While I admire his high-minded ideals, his suggestion that there is no difference between Mr. Gore and Mr. Bush is irresponsible. A moment ago, you said you essentially see Trump and Biden as the same. Different issues. But do you really believe that when people talk about the threat to democracy that Trump poses, do you really think that that is an equal evil to Biden?
I mean, listen, I can make the argument that President Biden is a much worse threat to democracy. And the reason for that is President Biden is the first candidate in history, the first president in history that has used the federal agencies to censor political speech, so to censor his opponent. I can say that because I just won a case in the Federal Court of Appeals and now before the Supreme Court. It shows that he started censoring not just me. 37 hours after he took the oath of office, he was censoring me. No president in the country has ever done that. The greatest threat to democracy is not somebody who questions election returns, but a president of the United States who used the power of his office to force the social media companies, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to open a portal and give the access to that portal to the FBI, to the CIA, to the IRS, to CISA, to NIH, to censor his political critics. President Biden, for the first president in history, to use his power over the Secret Service to deny Secret Service protection to one of his political opponents for political reasons. He's weaponizing the federal agencies. Those are really critical threats to democracy.
Donald Trump, of course, tried to.
Can y'all believe that they actually are interviewing RFK Jr. on CNN? Do you believe it? Now, I know she's about to pivot to Donald Trump and this quote unquote, election foolery and J6 foolery. I know she's going to pivot to that to try to say that what Trump did is far worse. No, what RFK just described of Joe Biden is 1,000 times worse than anything that they could say that Trump did. What he just described is 1,000 times worse. The weaponization of the White House and of the judicial system and of the political might by a U.S. president is, wow, it is far worse. And if you want to talk about a true threat to the republic, it's that. His ability, his willingness to do what RFK Jr. just described, that is the biggest threat to the Republic of the United States.
Overturn a free and fair election. He tried to overturn one, right? He's still fighting in court.
Yes.
He said, how is that not a threat to democracy?
Well, I think that is a threat to democracy. If him trying to overthrow the election clearly is a threat to democracy. But the question was, who is a worse threat to democracy? And what I would say is, I'm not going to answer that question, but I can argue that President Biden is, because the First Amendment, Aaron, is the most important. Adams and Hamilton and Madison said, we put the guarantee of freedom of expression in the First Amendment because all of our other constitutional rights depend on it. If you have a government that can silence its opponent, it has license for any atrocity.
So just to be clear, you're saying you could make an argument that President Biden is a worse threat to democracy than Donald Trump. That's what you just said.
But who else has ever tried to send, what president in history has ever tried to censor political opponents? What president has weaponized the federal agency? When my father came into the Justice Department, the first week he was there, He got all of the branch and division attorneys together, and he said, whatever we do, we are not going to use the power of the Justice Department for
Well, Trump,
political
of course,
reasons.
has said that he
And
would
what
do
we're
that.
seeing is
I can't believe that they even allowed this interview to keep going. Wow. After he said that, I'm surprised they didn't cut the feed. I'm surprised they didn't cut the feed in the middle of what he just said. Woo! Are you kidding me? You want to talk about some damning rhetoric or damning information, and he's absolutely right. When a president decides to do that and do what President Joe Biden has been doing, infringing on our First Amendment rights as per the Constitution, which is the foundation of this country, and that's the reason why it is the First Amendment, it makes you wonder what the heck is going on? Who's the real threat to this country? Let me know what you guys think, man. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Drop me a comment down below. I appreciate all the love and support. Keep God first in your life. Stay prayed up. It's crazy out here in these streets. America first, and I'm going to catch up with you all next time. Peace.